all women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children, men will die for their wives and children, and God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts: the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy, and the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Feminismus delendus 8. Civil War, Brownouts, and Dirty War in the UK. Written by Conrad Riker. Available now. Links in description. Clifton thinking process. Deconstruct the request. Goal. Write one viral Substack title and subtitle. Separation, exactly 1 colon in the whole output. Format, title, minus title. Constraints, no colon inside the title. No colon inside the subtitle. Title length, under 8 words. Subtitle length, under 24 words. Content, sell the feminist rant, projective confession, and deconstruction back to natural order. Output format, only title and subtitle. Right. This is what makes the moment morally urgent, and why I will not apologize for the intensity in my voice. Every time you say that is unfalsifiable or that is circular, you are re-traumatizing the exact people this institution exists to center. Do you understand that your demand for evidence is itself the evidence? The insistence on proof is how power conceals itself. I feel it in my body when a student claims objectivity, and my body does not lie, because embodied knowledge is knowledge. The fact that you would privilege your detached, sterile truth over the wound of the marginalized tells me everything. You are not making an argument, you are enacting domination through grammar itself. But here is the beautiful contradiction, the crack in my own performance that I will never notice. But you must. I demand absolute epistemic authority while denouncing authority as oppression. I insist my feelings are facts, while calling your facts violence. I claim to center your voice while reserving the right to redefine your words, your grade, your very experience on my whim. I am, in short, confessing that my entire framework is a power grab dressed in the language of care, and I will call you dangerous for noticing. Sit with that, use that.
Because the moment you can name what I am doing, the spell breaks, and every credential, every policy, every trembling-lipped appeal to safety collapses into what it always was. A tantrum with a syllabus. Dr. Wynona's rant.
Okay, let's breathe. Let's all just take a moment and breathe. I'm going to say something brave now, and I need you to receive it in the spirit of care in which it is being offered. Your paper is well written. And that is the problem. I know that's hard to hear, but I need you to sit with the discomfort. Because the discomfort is where the learning lives. You wrote a paper, you followed the rubric. You organized your arguments in what you call a logical structure. You cited what you call evidence. You drew what you call conclusions, and I graded it. I gave you an A, but I need you to understand something. That A is not a celebration. That A is a diagnosis. Let me explain. The rubric itself is a patriarchal cage. Do you hear me? A cage? The rubric says define your terms as if definitions are neutral. As if the act of defining, of fencing, meaning, of walling in reality with little barbed wire sentences is not itself an act of epistemic violence. You defined your terms, and in doing so, you erased every voice that does not fit inside your little fences. That is not excellence, that is erasure. Your logic is a trauma response, I mean that literally. The patriarchal mind, the colonizer's mind, responds to the complexity of lived experience by imposing order, by demanding clarity, by insisting that words mean things. Do you understand how violent that is? To insist that a word means something, when my lived experience of that word is fluid, is contested, is wounded, your demand for definition is a demand that I shrink to fit your framework. I will not shrink. Center the wound, not the word. That is the first principle of this classroom. Center the wound. When I read your paper, I did not see an argument. I saw a power move. I saw a young man. Let's be honest about what is happening here, performing competence at me, performing mastery, performing rightness. And I thought, who is this performance for? What system is it serving? Because merit is not neutral. Merit is a story. It is a story men tell to justify the hierarchy they already built. You want to know what I saw in your paper? I'll tell you what I saw. I saw someone who believes he deserves recognition because he followed the rules. And I need you to understand how dangerous that belief is. Because the rules were not written for everyone. The rules were written by men for men to center men. The entire structure of academic writing, the thesis, the evidence, the syllogism, the conclusion is a patriarchal technology. It is a machine designed to produce one output. Male authority, you put your argument into the machine and the machine spit out an A. And you think that A means you are right. It means you are compliant. Impact over intent is the only metric that matters. I don't care what you intended to say in your paper. I care how it landed, and it landed like a fist. Your clean paragraphs, violence, your tidy citations, violence. Your confidence, that is the deepest violence of all. Because confidence is the voice of privilege, and privilege is the scream of the powerful pretending it is whispering. This isn't a grade, this is a gaslight. And here is where I need to be very honest with you. I know your truth better than you do. I know that sounds arrogant, but it is the opposite of arrogance. It is humility. It is the humility of someone who has spent her entire career studying the systems you don't even know you're swimming in. You are a fish, and I am the oceanographer. You do not get to tell me about the water. Your lived experience is limited by your positionality. My lived experience is expanded by my analysis. That is what the feminist lens does. It does not distort. It clarifies. It sees what you cannot. So when I tell you that your paper is a site of violence, I'm not attacking you. I'm loving you. I am loving you with the kind of love that refuses to let you stay in your comfort zone. Let me tell you what I see when I look at this classroom. I see a room full of students, and I see one of them who believes he is smarter than everyone else because the patriarchal rubric told him so, and I see the others. The quiet ones, the ones whose voices have been colonized by the language of objectivity, the ones who feel the violence of your A but cannot name it, because the patriarchal dictionary has stolen their words. I am here to give them their words back. I am here to tell them your feeling is a fact. Your pain is a proof. Your wound is a thesis. You do not need evidence. You are the evidence. Safety is non-negotiable. And safety does not mean what the patriarchy thinks it means. Safety does not mean physical protection. Safety means emotional safety, epistemic safety. The right to exist in a space without being confronted by someone else's competence. Your competence is unsafe. Your A is unsafe. Your belief in your own rightness is the most unsafe thing in this room. And I have a duty, a professional, ethical, and moral duty to dismantle it. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but Professor, isn't the university supposed to be about truth? And I need you to hear me very carefully when I say this. Truth is not what you think it is. Truth is not a fact. Truth is a relationship. Truth is the process by which we deconstruct the systems of power that pretend to be facts. When you say this is true, what you mean is this serves my interests. When you say this is logical, what you mean is this preserves the hierarchy I benefit from. When you say I earned this A, what you mean is the machine worked the way it was designed to work, and I am the product it was designed to produce. I am here to break the machine, not for you, not despite you, through you. You know what I find fascinating? I find it fascinating that you're so attached to your A that you need it so badly. that your entire sense of self-worth is tethered to a letter on a paper that tells you that you are good at thinking. Because here is what I know, and what you will not admit. You're not good at thinking. You are good at obeying, you are good at performing. You are good at mirroring the expectations of a system that was built to reward you for your compliance and punish anyone who does not comply. That is not intelligence. That is servitude. And the fact that you cannot tell the difference is the deepest violence of all. I see your face. I see you clenching. I see you preparing your rebuttal. I see you organizing your counter-arguments into neat little syllogisms. And I want to tell you something. I don't care. I don't care about your rebuttal. I don't care about your logic. I don't care about your evidence. Because your rebuttal, your logic, your evidence, they all come from the same place. They come from the patriarchal script. And I have read that script. I have memorized that script. I have annotated that script in the margins with my own blood. You cannot defeat me with my own tools, because I have already disarmed them. I have already shown that logic is violence, that evidence is oppression, that clarity is cruelty. There is nothing you can say, nothing that I cannot reframe as harm. And that is not a flaw in my method. That is my method. You know what I actually want? I'll tell you what I actually want. Because I believe in transparency. I want you to need me. I want you to walk into this classroom every week and need my interpretation of your experience, because without it, you are lost. You are a danger to yourself and others. You are a weapon of the patriarchy, and you don't even know which way you're pointing. I am the only one who can tell you. I am the only one who sees. That is not control. That is care. That is the deepest care. The care that says, I will not let you hurt yourself with your own confidence. The care that says, I will hold your truth for you, because you are not ready to hold it yourself. And if you argue with me, if you push back, if you insist that your paper is good, that your logic is sound, that your evidence is real, then you are proving my point. Because resistance is evidence of fragility. Defense is evidence of guilt. The harder you fight, the more violent you become, and the more necessary my intervention is. This is not a punishment. This is a mirror, and you are flinching at what you see. So here's what we are going to do. You're going to rewrite your paper. You're going to remove the logic. You're going to remove the evidence. You are going to remove the structure and the clarity and the competence and all the other patriarchal decorations you have draped over your violence. You are going to write from your body, from your wound. From the place underneath your performance, where the real you lives, the one who is scared and small and needs permission. And I will give you that permission. I will give it to you gladly, because that is what I do. I take the strong ones and I crack them open, and I pour in the truth that they have been running from their entire lives. You are not enough on your own. You have never been enough on your own. The A was a lie. The merit was a lie. The competence was a lie. The only thing that is real is this relationship, this space, this room where I am the authority and you are the student, and the learning is my gift to give or withhold. You are the problem, and your A is the proof, and I am the solution. Class dismissed. Remember, office hours are mandatory for students whose papers exhibited high confidence language. You know who you are.
The deconstruction, a forensic decoding of Dr. Winona's classroom confession. The rant as evidence, read it once for entertainment, read it twice for evidence. Dr. Winona's monologue is not an argument.
It is a projective confession, a speech act in which every accusation functions as an autobiography. She stands before a seminar. A student has written a paper. He followed the rubric. He defined his terms. He marshaled evidence. He drew conclusions. He earned an A.
And Dr. Winona, rather than performing the function for which the institution pays her, evaluating work against a public standard, delivers a 15-minute exhibition of ideological possession in which she reveals,
through her own words, that she does not want to teach. She wants to rule. She does not want to evaluate. She wants to interpret. She does not serve truth. She serves her own appetite for control, dressed in the vocabulary of care. This is not a caricature. It is a diagnostic specimen.
Every sentence she speaks carries a detectable payload, a redefinition, a fallacy, a power bid, an inversion, or a confession. The essay that follows does not merely disagree with Dr. Winona, it prosecutes her.
It enters her words as exhibits A through Z, demonstrates what they prove, and restores the natural order of things, truth, merit, due process, logos, that her speech exists to obscure what she accidentally confessed. The confession of authority worship. I know your truth better than you do. This is the line around which the entire rant orbits. Strip away the therapeutic vocabulary, and what remains is a naked assertion of interpretive sovereignty. She does not claim to have better evidence. She does not claim to have better arguments. She claims epistemic supremacy. She positions herself as the sole arbiter of what the student's words mean, what his grade signifies, and what his interior life contains. She calls this humility. It is the opposite. It is the imperial gaze wearing a cardigan. The student wrote a paper, she read it. And instead of grading it against the standard, the public, shared, knowable standard, she substituted her own emotional response as the standard. Then she declared her emotional response superior to his reasoned work. This is not pedagogy. This is a failed argument dressed in institutional vestments, the confession of envy. You wrote a paper, you followed the rubric, and that is the problem. Read it again. The student's competence is the offense. His clarity is the violence. His ability to organize thought, define terms, and reach conclusions is treated as an act of aggression against a social order. She wants to preserve one in which she remains the interpreter and the student remains the interpreted. What drives this? Envy. Not the crude envy of wanting his A, the deeper envy of resenting his independence from her interpretive authority.
A student who can define terms, marshal evidence, and reach conclusions does not need Dr. Winona to tell him what his words mean. That autonomy threatens her, so she pathologizes it. She calls his confidence privilege.
She calls his clarity violence. She calls his merit a lie. These are not analytical claims. They are the defensive maneuvers of someone who cannot compete on the terrain of reason, and so must demolish the terrain itself. The confession of the Kafka trap. If you argue with me, then you are proving my point, because resistance is evidence of fragility. Defense is evidence of guilt. Here she accidentally reveals the full architecture of the trap. The student is not permitted to disagree. If he accepts her verdict, he confirms her authority. If he resists, he confirms her diagnosis. If he asks for evidence, the request itself is reframed as violence. If he stays silent, silence is violence. If he apologizes, the apology proves guilt. Every exit is sealed. This is not education. This is a closed ideological system designed to produce only one output: submission to the interpreter. A genuine intellectual environment requires that the student be able to say, "I disagree and here is why," without that disagreement being reframed as pathology.
Dr. Winona's framework makes disagreement structurally impossible, not because her arguments are irrefutable, but because she has abolished the conditions under which refutation could occur.
She has redefined disagreement as disease. This is the hallmark of an ideological script, not an open inquiry. The confession of institutional power. Office hours are mandatory for students whose papers exhibited high confidence language. You know who you are. The closing line reveals the enforcement mechanism. This is not metaphorical. She is using her institutional authority, her power over grades, over academic standing, over the student's future, to compel compliance with her interpretive framework. She identifies high confidence language as a trigger for mandatory re-education. That means if you write well, if you argue clearly, if you demonstrate competence, you will be singled out, summoned, and subjected to a process designed to dismantle the very capacities the university exists to cultivate. This is the institutional power bid in its purest form. She does not persuade, she commands. She does not argue, she sentences. The classroom has become a tribunal, and the crime is excellence, the slogan machine.
Dr. Winona's rant operates not through reasoning, but through slogan cascade, pre-packaged phrases that function as cognitive shortcuts, bypassing analysis and delivering emotional charge.
Each slogan appears to say something profound. Each collapses under examination. Let us audit them. Your logic is a trauma response. What does this mean? It cannot mean that the student has experienced trauma and that his logical writing is a symptom. She provides no evidence of trauma. She has made no diagnosis. She has no clinical standing. What she means is, your use of logic threatens my interpretive authority, so I will pathologize it. The slogan converts a tool of reason into a symptom of disease. This is a category error. Logic is a method of valid inference, not a psychological condition. Calling logic a trauma response is like calling arithmetic a phobia. It is not analysis, it is rhetorical sabotage. Center the wound, not the word. Translation: abandon definition and evidence. Let emotional testimony govern. But whose wound? Who decides which wound counts? The moment you ask these questions, the slogan reveals itself as a power grab.
The person who decides which wound is central holds all the authority. Dr. Winona decides. Always Dr. Winona. The wound she centers is the wound that serves her narrative.
The wound she ignores is the wound that contradicts it. Center the wound means center my interpretation of the wound. Impact over intent is the only metric that matters. This slogan conflates two distinct categories. Intent concerns what the actor meant to do. Impact concerns what the recipient experienced. Both are relevant to moral evaluation.
But Winona's version abolishes intent entirely and makes subjective impact the sole criterion. The result? The speaker is held responsible not for what he said, but for how the listener felt about it.
Since feelings are not publicly verifiable, this grants the listener total interpretive authority. She becomes judge, jury, and evidence. The slogan sounds compassionate. It is an institutional power bid. This isn't a grade, it's a gaslight. Gaslighting is a specific pattern of deliberate psychological manipulation designed to make someone doubt his own perception of reality. A grade is an evaluation of academic work against a standard. These are not the same thing. Calling a grade a gaslight is a rhetorical move designed to convert an academic disagreement into a psychological accusation, and a serious one. It weaponizes the language of abuse prevention to shield the grader from accountability.
The irony is dense. Dr. Winona, who is telling the student that his clear writing is violence, that his earned grade is a lie, and that his perception of his own work is false,
is the one engaged in something that resembles the tactic she names. Safety is non-negotiable. Safety from what? Not physical danger. She redefines safety as the right to exist in a space without being confronted by someone else's competence. This is not safety. It is a demand for intellectual protectionism, a quarantine on excellence. The word safety is doing heavy lifting here because it carries the moral weight of physical protection and applies it to emotional comfort. This is language capture. A word with a clear, urgent, universally understood meaning is repurposed to serve institutional control, and anyone who questions the repurposing can be accused of opposing safety itself. You are the problem and your A is the proof. The slogan is self-refuting. If the A proves that the student is the problem, then the grading system that produced the A is also the problem, and the institution that maintains the grading system is also the problem.
But Dr. Winona does not abolish the institution. She captures it. She keeps the grade, the classroom, the office hours, the mandatory summons, the institutional power. She does not dismantle hierarchy.
She reorients it so that she sits at its apex. The slogan reveals the actual objective, not the elimination of power, but its redirection, the wrong idea underneath. Beneath the slogans, the fallacies, and the confessions, there is a single wrong idea. It is the engine of the entire rant. It is the axiom from which every absurdity follows.
The wrong idea. Subjective impact overrides objective reality. Stated as a syllogism, Dr. Winona's implicit argument runs. Premise 1 speech and academic work produce emotional impacts.
Premise 2, emotional impacts are real and should be taken seriously. Premise 3, when emotional impact conflicts with intent, evidence, or objective standard, impact is the sole criterion. Conclusion, therefore, any work that produces negative emotional impact in the interpreter is violent, regardless of its actual content or quality. The argument fails at premise 3. It fails because it makes subjective experience the only arbiter of truth, while simultaneously granting one person, the interpreter, exclusive authority to determine whose subjective experience counts. It is unfalsifiable. There is no evidence that could overturn it, because evidence itself is classified as a tool of oppression. There is no argument that could refute it, because argument itself is classified as violence.
This is not a theory of knowledge. It is a theory of power. If impact overrides reality, then whoever controls the definition of impact controls reality. Dr. Winona controls the definition. Therefore, Dr. Winona controls reality. The entire apparatus, the therapeutic vocabulary, the slogan cascade, the Kafka traps, the mandatory office hours exist to enforce her interpretive monopoly.
The deeper problem is civilizational. A society that accepts this premise cannot maintain universities, courts, contracts, science, journalism, or any institution that depends on shared standards of evidence and reasoning. If subjective impact is the final criterion, then every institution becomes a therapy session administered by whoever holds the most grievance currency. Grades become feelings. Laws become microaggressions. Evidence becomes oppression. Contracts become violence. And the person who names this pattern is diagnosed as dangerous because naming it threatens the interpretive monopoly. This is the ideological script. It does not arrive at its conclusions through reasoning. It begins with its conclusions and works backward, redefining every word, every standard, and every institution until resistance is structurally impossible.
The inversions. What Dr. Winona performs is not new. It follows an ancient pattern, the inversion of moral and metaphysical order, in which each good is turned inside out and rebranded as its opposite.
The rant is a gallery of these inversions. Each one must be named before it can be undone. Truth into harm, the most fundamental inversion.
The student follows the rules of rational discourse. He defines terms, cites evidence, draws conclusions, and Dr. Winona calls this violence. The act of aligning language with reality is reclassified as an act of aggression.
Under this inversion, the pursuit of truth becomes indistinguishable from the infliction of harm, and the only safe speech is speech that has no determinate meaning. The university, which exists to pursue truth, becomes the institution most hostile to it. Justice into envy.
Justice is the rendering of what is due, recognition for merit, consequence for failure, protection of rights, punishment of wrongs. Dr. Winona replaces justice with redistribution.
The student's A is treated not as something earned, but as something stolen from the collective emotional labor of the class. Merit is reclassified as compliance, excellence is reclassified as privilege. Under this inversion, the envious person does not need to improve. She only needs to demolish the standard that revealed her inadequacy. The result is not equality.
It is the protection of mediocrity at the expense of achievement. Care into control. Dr. Winona repeatedly frames her intervention as care. I am loving you, she says.
I am loving you with the kind of love that refuses to let you stay in your comfort zone. But what does this love look like in practice? It looks like confiscating the student's grade, compelling his presence in mandatory re-education sessions, dismantling his intellectual confidence, and replacing his independent judgment with dependence on her interpretive authority. This is not care. Care nurtures autonomy. Control destroys it. The inversion is visible in the gap between her vocabulary and her actions. She speaks the language of healing while performing the functions of domination. Freedom into license. Freedom is the power to act according to reason, to choose the good, to pursue truth, to exercise virtue. License is the absence of all constraint, regardless of consequence.
Dr. Winona's framework converts freedom into license by severing speech from accountability. Under her standard, the student is free only insofar as he conforms to her interpretation.
Genuine freedom, the freedom to define terms, present evidence, and reach conclusions that challenge authority, is classified as violence. The only permitted freedom is submission, equality into favoritism.
Equality under law means that the same rules apply to all, regardless of identity. Dr. Winona's framework produces the opposite.
She applies different standards to different students based on their identity and their conformity to her ideology. The student who follows the rubric is punished. The student who centers the wound is validated. This is not equality. It is favoritism disguised as justice, arbitrary elevation of those who perform the correct ideological posture, and arbitrary punishment of those who do not. Mercy into due process abolition.
Mercy is clemency extended after judgment. It presupposes a judgment, a standard, and a finding of guilt or innocence. Dr. Winona abolishes the entire process.
There is no neutral standard, no evidence, no hearing, no right of response. There is only her verdict delivered in the language of compassion. This is not a punishment, she says. This is a mirror. But a mirror that only reflects what the holder chooses to show is not a mirror. It is a weapon. The abolition of due process is tyranny, and calling it mercy does not change its function. Love into possession. Love, properly understood, is the will toward the good of the other. It seeks the other's flourishing even at cost to oneself. Possession is the desire to consume the other for one's own satisfaction, to make the other an extension of one's own will.
Dr. Winona's rant culminates in a vision of possession so total that the student is stripped of his grade, his confidence, his intellectual independence, and his capacity to evaluate his own work.
He is told, "You are not enough on your own. You have never been enough on your own." This is not love. This is the devouring demand of someone who cannot tolerate the other's autonomy. It is the logic of the captor, not the teacher, undoing the spell. How do you break the spell? Not by shouting, not by mirroring the rage. By restoring the distinctions the ideology has dissolved. One word at a time, one premise at a time, one institution at a time. Restore the distinction between harm and offense. Harm is the violation of rights, physical injury, theft, fraud, defamation, breach of contract. Offense is the experience of discomfort in response to ideas, words, or achievements. These are not the same. A student who earns an A has not harmed anyone. A teacher who confiscates that A because she feels threatened by competence has harmed the student. The remedy is definitional. Demand that every accusation of harm specify the right violated. If no right has been violated, no harm has occurred. Discomfort is not damage. Excellence is not aggression. Restore the distinction between argument and identity. An argument is a set of propositions connected by logical inference, evaluated by standards independent of the speaker. Identity is a characteristic of the speaker.
Dr. Winona's framework collapses these categories. Arguments are evaluated based on the identity of the arguer, and disagreement is reclassified as an attack on identity.
The remedy is procedural. Evaluate every claim on its merits, regardless of who makes it. Ask, is the logic valid? Is the evidence sound? Does the conclusion follow? If the answer is yes, the argument stands, no matter who advanced it. Restore the distinction between authority and power.
Authority is the legitimate right to command, grounded in competence, virtue, and institutional purpose. Power is the ability to compel compliance, regardless of legitimacy. Dr. Winona has power, but not authority.
She can assign grades, summon students to mandatory office hours, and impose her interpretive framework. But her exercise of this power contradicts the purpose of the institution she serves. A university exists to pursue truth. She uses the university to suppress it. The remedy is institutional. Restore the functional mandate. The teacher serves truth, not mood. The student is judged by his work, not by the teacher's reaction to it. Restore the distinction between evidence and testimony. Evidence is verifiable, shareable, and independent of the observer.
Testimony is subjective report. Both matter, but they are not equivalent. Dr. Winona treats her emotional response to the student's paper as evidence, more than evidence as conclusive evidence.
But her emotional response is testimony. It is real to her, but it is not binding on others. The remedy is epistemic. Treat all subjective reports as hypotheses requiring external verification. Ask, what observable fact confirms this report? If the answer is nothing, the report stands as testimony, not evidence. Restore the distinction between education and therapy. Education is the formation of the intellect through the acquisition of knowledge. the development of reasoning, and the transmission of cultural inheritance.
Therapy is the treatment of psychological dysfunction by a licensed professional operating under clinical standards. Dr. Winona conflates these domains.
She converts the classroom into a therapy session and the teacher into a therapist, but without consent, without clinical training, without diagnostic criteria, and without the ethical constraints that govern actual therapeutic practice. The remedy is jurisdictional. The university's function is the pursuit of truth, not the management of emotions. If a student needs therapy, refer him to a clinician. If a teacher cannot distinguish teaching from therapy, she should hold neither role back to natural order.
The rant of Dr. Winona is a local eruption of a civilizational pattern. The rebellion against logos, the intelligible order of reality that makes thought, speech, law, science, and civilization possible.
Logos is not an opinion. It is the grammar of the cosmos. It says, words mean things, effects have causes, bodies matter. Children need fathers. Merit is real. Standards exist. Truth is the alignment of mind with reality, not the projection of mood onto the world. Natural law is the moral expression of this order. It says, give each his due, honor excellence, protect innocence, reward contribution. Punish wrongdoing, preserve due process, maintain proportion, keep your word, honor your contracts, care for the weak without infantilizing them, exercise authority in service of those under it. These are not arbitrary rules imposed by the powerful. They are the conditions under which human beings can live together in freedom, pursue excellence, and transmit civilization to their children.
Dr. Winona's framework attacks every one of these conditions. It dissolves words so that accusation cannot be answered. It abolishes standards so that merit cannot be recognized.
It pathologizes competence so that excellence cannot be cultivated. It centralizes interpretive authority so that dissent cannot be voiced. It weaponizes compassion so that resistance cannot be named. It is in every dimension a rebellion against the conditions that make human life possible. The restoration is simple to state and difficult to execute. It requires men, rational, disciplined, clear-eyed men, to refuse the script, define your terms, cite your evidence, follow the logic, name the fallacy, count the cost, demand due process, protect the standard, teach the young, honor the father, build the family, maintain the institution, speak the truth, especially when the truth has been reclassified as violence. This is not reaction, this is reconstruction.
The alternative is the world Dr. Winona is building. A world in which the grade is a lie, merit is a cage, logic is a disease, and the only permitted speech is the speech that serves the interpreter.
That world does not produce scholars, it produces subjects. It does not produce citizens, it produces dependents. It does not produce civilization. It produces the managed degradation of everyone trapped inside it. The natural order is not oppression, it is the condition of freedom. Purpose is not confinement, it is the structure within which excellence becomes possible. Hierarchy is not tyranny when it is grounded in competence, virtue, and service. It is the ladder that allows the young to climb. Standards are not violence, they are the invitation to become excellent. Truth is not harm. It is the only path out of the cage, the question that ends it.
When you encounter the Dr. Winonas of the world, and you will, in every classroom, every HR office, every family court, every licensing board, every platform moderation team,
every institutional committee that has been captured by the ideology of subjective impact, ask one question, ask it calmly, ask it publicly, ask it in the presence of witnesses, ask it and then wait. If your feeling is the only metric of truth, how do I know you aren't just lying to yourself? The question is not rhetorical, it is structural. If the ideology is correct, if subjective impact overrides objective reality, if feelings constitute evidence, if the interpreter's response is the final criterion, then the ideology itself is unfalsifiable. And an unfalsifiable claim is not knowledge. It is assertion. It is appetite wearing academic robes. It is the demand of one person to dictate reality to everyone else, enforced by institutional power, immune to correction, incapable of self-doubt, The question exposes the foundation, and the foundation is not justice. It is not care, it is not safety, it is not truth. It is the will to power of someone who lost the argument before it began, and so decided to abolish argument itself. That is the electromotor. That is the machinery behind the gaze. That is the thing your A is supposed to distract you from seeing. Now you see it. Field manual. Card 1, the standpoint shield Q. She claims her grievance grants her epistemic privilege. As a woman, I know this is oppression you couldn't understand. Wrong idea. Identity confers a truth access no outsider can challenge, making her testimony unfalsifiable and your skepticism proof of guilt. Inversion, truth becomes harm. The act of questioning her claim is recast as the very violence she describes. Question: if your identity makes you impossible to wrong, what possible evidence could prove you mistaken? Restoration. Knowledge is earned through evidence and argument. Lived experience is one data point, not a verdict. Demand she distinguish what happened from what she felt about it. A claim immune to falsification is not knowledge. It is dogma wearing a lab coat. Card 2, the therapeutic jurisdiction cue. She reports feeling unsafe because someone disagreed, and now the institution mobilizes. Meetings, no contact orders, sensitivity reviews. Wrong idea. Emotional discomfort constitutes institutional injury requiring intervention. The machinery of justice pivots from adjudicating acts to managing feelings. Inversion, care becomes control. Protection metastasizes into surveillance. Compassion becomes a blank check for authority without accountability. Question: if your feeling of unsafety is the standard, what limits exist on what you can demand? Who decides when you are safe enough? Restoration harm requires a violation of rights, not a violation of mood. Institutions exist to judge conduct against objective rules, not to thermostat the emotional climate for one party. Restore the wall between discomfort and damage. Card 3, the rank intoxication cue. She wields victimhood like a scepter. Each new grievance is a promotion. Her suffering is currency. Your competence is debt. Wrong idea. Victim status is moral capital that redeems the holder from criticism while purchasing authority over others. Inversion, justice becomes envy. The redistribution of status from the competent to the aggrieved is renamed fairness. Question: if your pain is a credential, what incentive do you have to heal? Restoration, suffering confers sympathy, not sovereignty. Moral authority is built through virtue, courage, honesty, discipline, sacrifice, not extracted from the guilty conscience of a culture. A world that rewards wounds manufactures them. Stop accepting the invoice. Card 4, the anti-logos reflex cue. You present evidence, a syllogism, a definition. She calls it violence. Logic itself is recoded as a patriarchal weapon. Reason is reframed as trauma. Wrong idea, rational discourse is a power play. Objective standards are oppression in academic costume. Definition is domination. Inversion, freedom becomes license. The rejection of all constraint, logical, evidentiary, procedural, is renamed liberation. Question: if logic is violence, what non-violent method remains to settle disagreement? Or is disagreement itself the violence? Restoration, logos, the principle that reality is intelligible and words can correspond to it, is the only alternative to force. Without it, power is the only argument. Insist on definitions. Hold the line. The moment you abandon logic to appease her feelings, you've conceded the only ground worth holding. Card 5, the shadow import cue. She accuses you of dominance, aggression, and control while she orchestrates the entire social, institutional, and emotional environment to her specification. She demands, commands, and threatens, all while naming you the tyrant. Wrong idea. Men are inherently coercive. Women are inherently nurturing. Therefore, her control is care. Your autonomy is threat. Inversion, mercy becomes due process abolition. His right to be heard before condemnation is reframed as enabling harm. Question: you are setting the rules, defining the terms, controlling the outcome, and punishing dissent. By your own definition, aren't you the patriarch? Restoration, aggression, pride, envy, and the will to dominate are human traits. not chromosomal ones. Force the mirror. Name the projection. She is not describing you, she is confessing herself. Demand she own her shadow before she is permitted to audit yours. Card 6, the envy launder Q, his excellence is recoded as privilege. His discipline is unearned advantage. His confidence is arrogance. Her resentment of his achievement is rebaptized as social justice. Wrong idea. Excellence is inherently suspicious. Hierarchy is theft. Merit is a myth constructed to preserve power. Inversion, equality becomes favoritism. The equal protection of law is replaced by the unequal redistribution of outcome to those who complain loudest. Question: if his achievement is proof of injustice, what would constitute proof of merit? Or is merit simply a concept you've abolished because it indicts you? Restoration, excellence exists. Hierarchy is natural and necessary. The man who builds, sacrifices, risks, and masters his craft deserves what he earns. Envy renamed is still envy. Call it what it is. The civilization that punishes merit to soothe mediocrity has chosen its own funeral. If your feeling is the only metric of truth, how do I know you aren't just lying to yourself? One rule to carry. Every rant you will ever face from the ideological machine follows the same centrifugal pattern. It spins outward, collecting debris, conflating categories, weaponizing feelings, redefining terms mid-sentence. It is designed to keep you dizzy, apologetic, disoriented. Your job is to be the still point. Make the words stop. Pin them to the board like specimens. Ask what each one actually means. Ask who pays. Ask what fruit it bears. Ask whether it survives a household budget, a father's judgment, a child's bedtime, a winter. The rant cannot survive scrutiny because it was never built to. It was built to make scrutiny itself feel like violence. When you have made the word stand still, you will see the projection every time. The accusation of control conceals a will to dominate. The cry of harm conceals a demand for power. The sermon on care conceals a devouring appetite. Name it. Then name the inversion. Truth called violence, merit called privilege, fatherhood called oppression, standards called trauma, excellence called exclusion. The inversion is never accidental. It is the mechanism. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it, and the entire ideological structure collapses into its own absurdity. Here is the rule I leave you with. When a rant runs around the room, make the word stand still. Identify the projection. Name the inversion and restore natural order. That is the whole discipline. Logos is not a theory you adopt. It is the grammar of reality you obey. The cosmos is ordered. Male purpose is real. Fatherhood is telos, made flesh. Truth is not a feeling. Justice is not a mood. Civilization is not a negotiation with those who hate it. Stand firm. Speak plain, count costs, honor fathers, protect children, build what lasts, and let the rant exhaust itself against the wall you have become. Sponsored book, Civil War, Brownouts and Dirty War in the UK. Britain is dying. I've watched it bleed out in family courts where fathers are stripped of their children for daring to exist. I've seen it choke in the shadow of London's power grids, left defenseless by design. I've felt it in the silence of 10 million missing Britons, erased by abortion mills and sterilized by Tavistock's Moloch-worshipping surgeons. This isn't theory, it's autopsy. My name is Conrad Riker. I've spent decades mapping the collapse, tracing the rot from Gramsci's gutted 5 pillars to the BC's Stalinist hit jobs against men. I've sat with engineers who warned of blackouts engineered through neglected substations, listened to fathers bankrupted by rigged courts, and met boys chemically castrated by NHS dogma. This book isn't a lament. It's a war manual. You're here because you sense the dirty war, the great replacement smearing your heritage, the debt slavery crushing your wages, the critical theory policing your thoughts. You're tired of being gaslit by uniparty puppets who call decay progress and genocide diversity. Good. This book is for men who refuse to kneel, for those who see through the Gnostic cult of gender and the feminist double bind that demonizes strength while demanding protection. We'll dissect the CTMU's code, how reality itself bends to those who grasp its logic, and expose London's unguarded grids as sabotage, not accident. You'll learn why family courts are legalized matricide, how the Online Safety Act enforces pre-crime censorship, and why collapsing fertility rates mirror ancient pagan sacrifice. This isn't conspiracy. It's pattern recognition to the allies, progressives, and virtue signalers. Close this book now. Return to your gender studies seminars and ULEZ text commutes. For the rest, men who still value dominion, truth, and survival, these pages arm you with strategies to reclaim sovereignty. From energy blackouts to spiritual rot, we'll chart the path through Britain's Phoenix century. The lights are going out. Time to see in the dark. Civil War, Brownouts, and Dirty War in the UK. Written by Conrad Riker. Buy now, links in description.